Every time when you hear about an invisible taxpayer, you may be having a lot of questions. I know many people may not understand who an invisible taxpayer is. In this video, we are going to talk about an invisible taxpayer, the millions of invisible taxpayers. Someone may be asking, why are we talking about invisible taxpayers? The answer is simple. It's because they are taxpayers. Taxpayers who are not, in most cases, acknowledged or even recognized. And a good example of an invisible taxpayer is the street families. Anytime when you see that boy, that girl, that lady, that man, the street people, those are invisible taxpayers. And why do we refer to them as invisible taxpayers? It's because despite the fact that they contribute immensely to our tax revenues, very little seems to be done about their welfare or their current situation or situations. Ask yourself, what is it that the government is doing for those members of the society, yet they are taxpayers? The next time you come across a young man who is carrying a sack, maybe looking for plastics to go and sell, you need to ask yourself very many questions. That taxpayer, how do they benefit from being taxpayers or from paying taxes? When that young man walks around, they get plastic, they go and sell. Imagine they still have to pay tax from whatever money that they get. How do they benefit from their tax contribution? Please do not tell me that they live in this country, there is security, there are loans. The street families, do they know about security? Do they know about loans? Do they know about schools? Yet they pay taxes in this country. I think I should have changed the title of this video to Homeless Taxpayers. How about that girl? She's carrying a baby or babies. She comes to the window of your vehicle and she's asking you for money. That is a taxpayer. You're driving your vehicle on a road that was built from taxpayers' money. That girl has contributed to the building of that road. How about the government workers? The vehicles that you drive, the central government vehicles, the parastatal vehicles, the county government vehicles, the money that was used to buy those vehicles, and the money that is used to run those vehicles. Part of that money is contributed by the street families. It does not matter how much it is, even if it's a shilling out of 10 million. It is still money. Taxes that are paid by the invisible taxpayers. The worst thing, that there are people who beg from morning to evening, and from whatever little they get, they have to pay taxes. And that is not all. How about the ladies and the men who engage in the night business? They are not exempted from paying tax, and they must pay tax, irrespective of the source, all sources of their money or income. They still have to pay taxes. Why? Because the income tax does not distinguish where you get your money from. I think it's the high time the Income Tax Act is amended, and income from certain activities should be excluded. I know someone is saying this is going to open a can of worms. It will not. How many people can accept that they engage in the night business to get money? Majority will not. They will not. Well, maybe a few of them, but the majority will not. So the next time that you come across street families, the person you are looking at, that young man, that young girl, those are taxpayers. They may not have the PIN, but for you to be a taxpayer, it's not a must that you have a PIN. There are so many people who pay VAT and they are taxpayers, and they don't pay income tax. They don't, but they pay VAT. Being a taxpayer is not an issue of whether you have a PIN. It is simply about your tax contributions. However, if you have a PIN, it means that you are a registered taxpayer. You are a taxpayer, but you are a registered taxpayer. There are very many people in this country who are not registered taxpayers. However, they are still taxpayers. That extra 16% that you pay, you are a taxpayer. I know you've come across very many street families. Have you ever asked yourself, what do they eat? Where do they sleep? How do they access medical care? Are their children going to school? I know to many people, that is basically none of their business. But let me tell you why it is your business. Those families, that boy, that girl, that woman, that man, the whole family, they are taxpayers. They are. And I'm going to demonstrate to you how they are taxpayers and the reasons why the government should do more than is being done today. We are going to look at 3 tax systems and examine whether the invisible taxpayers contribute to the tax revenues in this country. We are going to start with income tax. We all know that income tax is the tax on our income. I know someone is saying that the invisible taxpayers have no income. However, they have income, but minimal income. Even a shilling is income. But the most important thing to note is that the income they have may not meet the threshold of being taxable income. Yes, they may not have a lot of income, but they help you as any other taxpayer, generate income. For example, when the street families get into a supermarket and they purchase whatever they want, that is when they have money to do that. They are like every other customer in that supermarket, and they do not get lower prices. They pay the same prices like everybody else is paying. In that price, there is the profit for the supermarket, and the supermarket is going to pay income tax based on that profit, of course with adjustments. However you earn your income, whether it is from gains and profits, dividend or interest, pension and annuity, natural resources, or from any other source that is deemed as taxable income, the street families contribute. They may not be contributing directly, but they contribute indirectly. Contribution is contribution. How about VAT? That is the value added tax. We all understand that the type of VAT that is used in this country is consumption taxes. The street families, do they consume anything that has VAT? Of course they do. When that young man, that young girl, that lady or that man, when they walk into a restaurant that is registered for VAT, and they buy chips or soda, they pay VAT. They do. The price that you pay when you get into that restaurant is the same price that they pay when they get into that restaurant. In this case, they pay VAT direct. It is not like income tax. When we are talking about VAT, we are talking about a street family or a member of the street families walking into a taxpayer's premises. And in this particular case, the taxpayer happens to be registered for VAT and they are going to pay the VAT. Let us look at domestic excess duty. There are very many products and services that have domestic excess duty. I prefer to call it domestic excess duty to differentiate it from the excess duty you pay on importation of whatever you're importing at the customs. Now, airtime has excess duty. There are very many drinks that have excess duty. Are members of the street families exempted from this tax or not? They are not exempted. And therefore, this is another case of how they contribute to the tax kitty in this country. The question is, despite their circumstances, what is the government doing? Is it only a question of taking money from the invisible taxpayers in the form of taxes? We know that members of the society who are disabled, they are exempted from tax, that is income tax, to a certain amount, maximum 150,000 per month. We know that the elderly are also given money. The question is, why are the invisible taxpayers not given any money or at least supported? In case you know of any government programs that have been set to help the street families because they are taxpayers, please let us know in the comments. What is the government doing to help the invisible taxpayers get out of the situations that they find themselves in? There are very many young people who are among the invisible taxpayers. The fact that these people are in these particular circumstances, it does not mean that they are lesser members of the society or lesser taxpayers. A taxpayer is a taxpayer. So what is it that the government can do so that it can help these specific taxpayers? There are very many things that the government can do. Number one, using the tax money, the government can open up kitchens where these members of the society can go and have lunch or dinner. The other thing that the government can do is to give them cards, so that when they walk into supermarkets or any other place where they want to purchase whatever they want, they can be exempted from tax. That is not enough. The government is collecting enough money to resettle these members of the society. The government may not have money to give them farms, but some of the houses that are being constructed, that is the affordable houses, some of them can be set aside so that these members of the society can be settled. Many of them do not require much. In actual fact, many human beings, they require very little push. And after that, the sky is the limit. I know someone is asking, why are you talking about the invisible taxpayer? The question is, if I don't talk about the invisible taxpayer, who is going to talk on their behalf? Who? Someone needs to tell the government that it needs to do more than it is doing for the invisible taxpayers. There is nobody in this country who is enjoying a situation where they do not know where they are coming from or where they are going. No one. That's a fact. No one. Being homeless does not make one less of a human being. Human beings love certainty. And these are human beings who are contributing to the welfare of this country. This country should do something about the invisible taxpayers. And it is not asking too much. No, these are people who go out of their way to work out a living, whether they are borrowing, selling plastic paper bags or whatever they are doing, so that they can earn an income. And that income they get, they do not put it in the banks. They go out and buy, for example, food. That food happens to have value-added tax. So the next time when you see that girl, that young man, that woman, or even that man asking you for coins, part of what you're going to give that person is tax. When you see that man or that woman collecting, whether it's rubbish, whether it's plastic paper bags, containers, pieces of metal, whatever money they get after selling what they collect, they use that money for consumption, and that consumption has value-added tax. The next time you come across street families, these are, shall we call them street taxpayers or homeless taxpayers? They actually are homeless taxpayers. There you have it. We have come to the end of this session. Now you understand that the street families, the many people we find in town, and many times we hold our bags tight or roll up our windows when we are seated in the traffic jam. Those are taxpayers. That is all for today. This video is important to my heart. Many times when I go to town and come across street families, I have very many questions. I have 2 questions for you. Question number 1. Do you think the government is doing enough for the invisible taxpayer? Question number 2. What do you think the government should do to help the invisible taxpayers? Put your response to those 2 questions in the comment section of this video. Before you leave, make sure that you check out what we have for you in the description of this video. We have a lot, and these are basically links to resources that can help you and your business. Until next time, stay well. As always, this is Dr. Wakaguyu.